cars keys. Let's get it started up. Give me the car keys. Lakeshore Drive. Blog boys drive away with our texts like car thieves. Break down, we study tape and thrive.
Analytical preparation, that's what cause is given. Cars don't discriminate, teaching the men and women. Each and every week, Bears nerd to get your focus. Never manipulating stats, lore, cars and hocus pocus. Cars keys, they're never lost. Checking source, never gonna find a better scouting report. Cars going live with the smartest man, my bestie. Deciphering holes on the defense like Getsy. New show, uniforms, orange with the dark sea. Take them alive, patrons, this is Cars
You know
Keys.
it's cars keys. Let's get it started up. Give me the car keys. Lakeshore Drive. Blog boys drive away with our texts like car thieves. Break down, we study tape and thrive. We gotta break down tape like detectives. No hot takes, just real football perspectives. The Bears nerd dropping science on his terms. TTNL giving Bears press like a perm. Other networks is off with the heads. Stats plus film equals football thread. Analysis like data Ted tries to shred. McCaskey's letting me cake, we keep the 100 crew fed. Cars keys, let's get it started up. Give me the car keys. Lakeshore Drive. Blog boys drive away with our texts like car thieves. Break down, we study tape and thrive. Lord Hines in his car, fill up a goblin. Lord Hines in his car, fill up a goblin.
Yo, the Bears may be out of the playoffs, but we never rest here at TTNL, unfortunately. Phil's a slave driver. Cars Keys is back. Season 4, episode 65. Let me go see if my guy in the back is ready to talk some ball. And there he is, Cars.
I thought we were going to talk about baking recipes and things along those lines.
Yeah, having the best backup quarterback in the history of ever, according to Carm, stuff like that.
I think the biggest takeaway is we got to start Bajent the first 3 quarters and then just put in Caleb in Q4.
It's
roll with it. Yeah,
it's good business. Good business. We need more arm wrestling and more backup quarterbacks in Chicago. But
I should have said that when I'm wearing Oakley sunglasses and my hat is backwards, so I apologize.
Oh man, it sucks, Cars. Like I said, it's no matter what type of week you're having, you could always look at it and be like, oh, I got a Bears game this weekend. And it was a magical, it was a run, it was a fun run, it was a fun season. But if you take some of our content and roll it back, and I know you and I talked about it privately and just like everybody else did, the biggest thing that we wanted to take out of 2026 at the end of the day was you wanted no doubt, you wanted the offense to be on the rise, and you just wanted to leave no doubt QB1 and the foundational piece moving forward. Not only did you find that, I mean, I never wavered, and I know you never wavered on Caleb Williams, but you have the other building block there in place with Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
And this marriage moving forward looks like it's going to be a fruitful one for the city of Chicago and Bears fans all over the world.
Yeah, I think at the beginning, when we came in, I said, if you're somewhere between sort of 7-10 and 9-8, this season is a massive improvement. Yeah. And you could be comfortable with that as long as the offense was moving in the right direction. And so to sit there and be like, I was, 11-6, and there's a playoff game at home and you win it. And then as much as the loss stings, I think that Rams game was sort of, minus the ending of that game, the perfect way to end. And what I mean by that is the city was electric. The whole world got to watch us enjoy that national anthem. That is not something that we have seen since the Blackhawks have been good again. Well, when the Blackhawks were good, they're not good again. And, with a game on the line, our quarterback goes and makes a throw that people are still talking about
Yeah.
today. And it's interesting to watch how the kind of the talk has changed around him so much.
100%. And Cars, we've talked about this with the Bears, and you can go back to Lovie Smith, and I understand he had a winning record as a head coach, but the wild inconsistencies still, reared their head. The offense was truly never fixed. I mean, you might get hot for a few games, or maybe even for a season, but it never seemed to be sustainable. And I understand that the Bears offense still has some warts. And I've been very critical of DJ, and I know we're going to get into that and everything, but I'm more disappointed overall in Roma Dunze
Oh yeah.
because of draft status and the way that I analyzed him. I said, watching him on tape at Washington, the one thing that you didn't have to worry about was contested catches or just him catching the ball in general. And, going back and watching that game, 9 drops in an NFL playoff game. It's crazy. And then now they have Ben Johnson on the sideline staring at Rome, with dagger saying, "You gotta fucking catch that." And he's right. He to this point, Rome Odunze, I would ask you, Cars, and you're invested just as much as I am. What is the defining moment of Rome Odunze as a Chicago Bear top 10 draft pick? What is the signature play that stands out for you?
I mean, it's the 4th down play against Green Bay
Right.
and the hit that he took. But I
Yep.
think that's the perfect way to sit down and explain him is like
Yep.
the two Romes. That's the good play, and the bad play is the touchdown that he drops on the first drive, right?
Yeah.
The very clear one that it should be. Um, I think and I think it was telling to your point that Ben Johnson said, our guys got to look in the mirror
Yep.
basically and figure out ways that they're going to catch the ball more. And I think again, one of those weird things that you sort of appreciate about the way that season went is there's this big focus on completion percentage
Yeah.
to a
Yep.
degree that there should be. But then you go and you watch a game like that and you're like, there were, let's just say, of those 9, 6 of those are absolute must have catches.
100%.
How much does
100%.
that change that conversation? And when you started to see how the stories had changed, about completion percentage because people started to look at depth of target and how
Yep.
many, how he's throwing behind the line of scrimmage significantly less than everybody else, and he's throwing 10 yards and more, more than most of those quarterbacks. I think most of those things factor, but those drops, those plays, you know, people are gonna go back like they always do, and they're just gonna look at us at the back of
Yep.
the football card, and they're gonna see a
100%.
completion percentage, and because we don't include drop rates on any wide receiver, those things don't show drop
Yeah.
rates. People are just gonna forget kind of the magical season sometimes that
Yeah,
that
it's the Peter Bukowski way of looking at Bears football.
well, that's can I say it a different way?
Sure.
And fuck you, Peter Bukaki. But it's the uninformed,
Yeah.
I have to be right way of looking at football.
Yep.
It's it's because my whole persona is I hate the Bears
Right.
versus like I love my team. Every time they're like,
Yeah.
it's just a shame. There's your team has enough going on with all of its drama and its off-season stuff to focus there. Um, that's where you should like the rest. I don't. I think I've told this to you. I think the biggest takeaway for us next year as Twitter fans is we should never retweet or
Yeah.
comment tweet on anything he says because it's useless.
Oh, it
Packers
is.
fans
Right.
hate him. Packers fans hate Cheesehead TV. And who's the 2 people that we see kind of quote tweeted the
Right.
most?
Oh,
Idiot.
yeah. Yeah, because, listen, we've been a beaten down fan base for a lot of years. And, Clay Matthews came out with a thing today saying,
You're welcome.
yeah, you're welcome. It's great. Guess what, Clay? I could give two fucks about what you did in 2010 when you were relevant. You're not relevant. You know what makes you relevant now? Talking about my team. That's the only fucking reason that you're getting any clicks. That's fine. And I ain't switching places with you. I'm not switching places with the Pack. I'll take the Bears' future over the Packers all fucking day.
And it's multifaceted. I think the Halfley loss is way more impactful. And I think it was funny that a lot of Packers fans in many ways were like, I think we should keep Halfley over LaFleur because the defense for them played significantly better. Leave the 25 points and all that baloney out. I get how bad that looks, but we've seen Vic Fangio have those days. We've seen every coordinator have those days. But the thing that made the Packers the most relevant this past season was the defense.
Yep.
And the prior season that made them the most relevant was the defense, and that was because of him. And so, you know what? Focus on your own team. Focus on how you're going to lose Romeo Doubs and all these other people this year, and you're going to have a harder time going forward because they showed their face. Like
I agree.
Keshawn Nixon and a bunch of other players, they all showed what they really were. And kind of to pull back to that Lovey period, it was very similar to when Lovey left and we had Trestman. And I'm not trying to give Tucker any sort of credit, but the second you weren't covered by good play calling or above average players in front of you, how many of those Bears defenders got massively exposed?
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
Totally agree. And I just want to bring this up. Josh Pruitt says Rome wasn't in playoff condition due to the injury. He's got huge upside. I'm not concerned. You're 100% right. He's got huge upside. But Josh, when I'm talking about Rome, I'm not talking about post-injury Rome. I'm talking about the entirety of the 2025 football season where Rome came.
Hands.
Yeah. I can take you back to week 2 and show you a minimum of 3 dropped passes. And I understand the Bears got boat raced in Detroit. You are a top 10 pick. You have to make those plays. Rome was downtrodden in the locker room. Don't forget why. They had their exit meetings before. Ben Johnson is about as no nonsense as there is. And do you think that he blew sunshine and rainbows up Rome's ass? No, he didn't, because I'll tell you what, and I talked about this on Keeping It 100 last night, Ben Johnson, other than coaching Rome Odunze, did not bring him here. He was not a guy he said, I need him. He said, I need Luther Burden. He said, I need Colston Loveland. So that's a difference. And I think one of the moves that the Bears are going to make, Cars, I think he's going to go out, and I don't think he's going to spend a ton of money, or maybe it's going to come a little bit later in the draft, but there's going to be somebody in free agency or in the draft at the wide receiver position that Ben Johnson covets, and they're going to make a move for one, because he needs his. No, I'm not talking about a straight 4.2 440 guy, just a guy that's consistent, that's going to go over the middle, that's going to be reliable like that. And to this point, I love Rome, love the talent. And like you said, huge upside. He has not lived up to a top 10 pick, not even close. He just has not.
He started to last year a little bit. And then, that first game, he looked pretty good. And then it sort of fell off. And I don't think you're wrong. I think the thing with Rome is, I get what you're saying, but football is one of those sports, Josh, where if you're not healthy enough to really go out and impact the game, then it's on you to say, I can't really go. But the second that you step on the field, it's one of those weird things inside the NFL where it's like, if you can't do it, don't do it. Don't try. don't even try. Don't try to do any of these certain things. And so I'm with you. I think there are a couple guys out there that I think you're going to really look at. Uh, uh, they're just going to be. I'm trying to remember. There was a name that popped into my head. Now I can't remember it. Like Alec Pierce is probably going to be around 20 million a year,
Yeah,
right? And that's a different type of skill set of a player that you're thinking about. But he's someone that in a little way that makes sense. But if you asked around the league which rookie wideout or which second year wideouts were the most disappointing, it's 1A Brian Thomas and it's 1B Rome.
I hear you. Yeah, he just didn't make enough plays, and like you said, I understand the foot injury, and I should have. Um, this is Josh again. I think he brings up a valid point, and the way that you have to look at this, Josh. Yeah, they're going to be do their extensions in the same year, but guess who else is going to be doing extension then too? Is Luther Burden. Is Luther Burden doesn't have the 5th-year option.
Yep.
So he's on the same timetable. And if I had to put money down on the table right now about who's going to be here long term, I'm not betting against Luther Burden for Rome Odunze. I'll tell you that. I'm just not. But like I said, Rome still has the benefit of the doubt. I think with the fans and with the coaches, and they're going to give him a lot of slack to come back. But the radar is on Rome Odunze. And don't think it's not for one bit, because you look at what the cars use. I know you've seen the clip of JT O'Sullivan. He wasn't just critical of DJ Moore on the interception. He was critical of Rome Odunze, because if you do, and JT is right, if you watch Rome's going 45%.
Yeah, it was a bad look, and
It
I
was
think,
for both of them.
and
Yeah.
I just want to. This is about Rashid Shaheed. He did not. He's a free agent.
Yep.
He's only on a 1-year deal. He did not sign with multiple years. He signed a 1-year extension with New Orleans and then was traded.
And they also have 70+ million available under the cap in Seattle.
But he also has not been necessarily an offensive playmaker.
Right.
He's been fantastic at special teams, but
Yep.
he's not been that player. No, I think the biggest issue when we talk about completion percentage and all of these things, and the things that we have to understand is there are certain offenses that are various types, right? You've got RPO offenses, you have motion offenses, you've got, a lot has been made to do about what it is in Philadelphia and what that looks like. What Ben runs is very much a timing based offense. It's very similar in a way, kind of in that regard to like what Mike Martz used to run, where it's like, I want at 7 steps or at 5 steps the ball out and it should be here. And you have to have tremendous faith in your wideouts and tight ends. Well, Mike Martz doesn't use tight ends. That that they'll be there. And I think, Shane, to your 2 points, part of the reason we saw Burden and Loveland's ascension as the season came on is that Caleb could trust that they would be where they needed to be at the time they needed to be there. It was hit or miss with Rome. It's significantly worse in a lot of games with DJ. It's why you see oftentimes those quick throws to DJ, because you could count on him in those instances. But it impacts the whole offense. This is what Jameson Williams struggled with his first year in Detroit, right? Or his first and second year. How do I get to where I need to be? And then by year 3, he figured it out. This year, it's going to be on Rome, and this is when you're going to find the player. We're not writing him off as of now, but like, Caleb, you need to work on mechanics. Rome, you got to work on your timing. You have to work on your routes and timing and how you set them up so that at 2.5 seconds, when Caleb gets back at a 5-step drop, that ball is ready to come out and you're where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I talked about this last night also. Cars, you heard the rumors just like I did. The talk of there was 3 players at Hallis Hall that were, amongst the ones that wanted to get out the quickest and get back to their place and play video games. And I'm not saying that it's true. And I beyond what I've, heard and behind the scenes stuff, the 3 players that they're talking about were Caleb Williams, Roma Dunze, and Keenan Allen. And that they would all go home and they were playing Call of Duty, and that was like a huge part. And I understand this is what these guys do, but it can't be the majority of your day if you're going to live up to expectations in the NFL. And I think that you've 100% seen a pivot in the leadership of Caleb Williams. How to me he's different even at the podium. He's not looking for respect. He's commanding it now when he's in the room. And
Shane, what did Ben say to Caleb after the season ended? I need you to disconnect from football for
right.
a while.
100%.
Like, if that doesn't tell you what has changed in his obsession over all of this, and again, I think it goes to show just how bad the previous staff was and how they were just over it. Like
Yeah.
we've all had managers or bosses that don't know what the heck they're talking about. And so like it affects your ability to want to go to a team meeting with them or a one-on-one with them and all of those things. So we can all understand it. But again, you look at that that playoff win and that speech that happened afterwards and what Caleb talked about. That relationship between those two, and it's not that Caleb doesn't have a dad, but it's way more in the line of like a father son, really good, and it's in all the positive ways of a bond
Yeah.
that you can imagine. And it's because Ben probably went to him and said, "This is what you're gonna. If you want to be good, this is what you have to do. The rest is up to you." And I think we've seen that he's taken it.
I agree. And I think it was Grody talking about there was him and Weeder were both talking about there was moments in OTAs and training camp where they were looking at each other. They're like, is this relationship going to work? But that's how scripted Ben Johnson is. And, it's just, he's very no nonsense, and he doesn't give a fuck if you're Caleb Williams or who you are.
He just gives a fuck if you're Matt LaFleur.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're gonna fuck up, it's get off the field and it's next man up. And oh, by the way, I'll praise the guy behind you publicly, and then I'll say that our practice habits aren't championship caliber.
And I think we saw that though, like all throughout, right? Like the clip that we showed a ton during the preseason of Bieniemy going after Kyle Monangai, right?
Yeah.
Like that was set from go with the staff. And
totally agree, Cars. And that's what's so critical about the draft process that people don't understand. And you think it's all about 40 time and it's all about their physical attributes. It's not. It's sometimes you can get more out of that 15-minute session in Indy when you're sitting down with guys, because you just it's so fast and it's lightning quick, but you just get a sense of kind of who they are, a little bit away from football, just for a small window, and you can see what matters to them. And I mean, it's crazy. Who was the one player that I'm blanking on it now, but it's just, you could tell. It'll come to me, and I'll bring it back up. But it wasn't Bears related. But the guy's like, yeah, I don't really love football. I'm just good at it. And I'm like, can you imagine in your multi-million-dollar job interview, playing football, that's what you're going to come to the table with? And the guy ended up flaming out of the league and didn't last, and that's why. But
this was another good one too, by the way.
Yeah. Right. 100% correct.
But Shane, to your point, what did the Bears do in these past couple of seasons, right? They brought in a dartboard, or they brought in a putting green or
Yeah,
something like that to push them, because you're right, these guys will sit down and they'll go from the Bears, let's just say, who have a dartboard, and then they'll go to another team that's gonna make them whiteboard play calls, and then they're gonna go to another team that might do a board game. I'm just making things up.
yeah,
Like, they don't know what to expect. And part of the brilliance of that is you get people at their most authentic. And these guys get tired. So, like, at some point, a person who doesn't love the game, you're going to find out really quick. It's like, do you want to draft the next Eddie Goldman?
right.
Like, you watch Eddie, you look at him, you're like, this is the play. And then you watch him and you're like, and then he's like, I'm just not going to play for a bit.
Yeah.
Do you love, and I think Ben emphasized this multiple times. Our
Well,
roster's built with and filled with players who love the game.
and I know this is basketball related, but do you think that Ben Johnson would accept paying Patrick Williams $95 million?
No.
You know what I mean? Those guys are not going to exist in Chicago, and if they unearth somebody like that and find out that that's who they are, they're going to be gone. And
Oh, yeah.
that shit permeates.
I mean, the NBA is terrible about paying players based on potential.
Yep.
And the only position that you see that in football is at quarterback, right? Like, and I think it'd be really good right now to go back and look and say, you miss more than you hit on those. Brock Purdy, as good as he is when things are going good, when they're going bad, he's not your guy.
Right.
Kyler Murray got another coach fired. Sam Darnold, in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong set of coaches. Like, you have all of this history, but the rest, every other position, you are not paid. You have the exact opposite. George Pickens. Look at how cheaply he was gone. As great of a wide receiver as he is, you don't want to pay that guy $30 million a year.
No, you can't. You can't. There'll be a team out there that's desperate enough that it's going to pony up for him.
The Cowboys will do it.
Yeah, it's not going to happen here, and you're 100% right. And that's when Ryan Poles comes out and says, we know who we want, and we put a bear by their name. That's essentially number one is your love for football. You got to eat, breathe, and shit it. It's got to be, it's got to be a major factor in your life. And I'm not saying that Rome doesn't love football, but I will guarantee you Ben Johnson didn't come up to Rome and say, Rome, you know what? You got to get away from it for a while.
Yeah, I would have loved just to hear the difference between the conversation that he had between like a Rome and a DJ, and again a Luther and a Colston. And obviously
100%.
some of that message would be different because it's now their first real NFL offseason and what to do. But the messages are going to be very, very different for those two players. And let's not forget, like, early in the season, it was kind of Rome from a receiving, even with his drop, that was leading us. And then in the middle portion, it was kind of DJ. And then at the end, it was Luther and Colston. Like, I often talk, and I know you agree in this, in that you really break the football season up into quarters, just like you do a game. And it's the first four, last five. And who you are at the end, where is the ball going? Where are the targets going? When you need a play,
it's who you really are. Yeah.
When you need a play, who is it going to? It's going to Colston. If you need yak, who is it going to? It's going to Luther Burden. And so these are the things that really stand out. But I think you bring up a really good point. Like, it's just, I love football. I eat because my coach is a maniac, which I don't think is a bad thing.
No.
And we want other maniacs.
100%. You have to. And I know Phil over the years took a lot of grief on this comment, but when he said maniacal, that's what, like I said, that's what he was talking about. It wasn't, you got to rip the TVs off the wall and break chalkboards and shit like that. It's, Ben himself has said, yeah, I can't. I don't know if you heard him say he was sleeping okay, but towards the end of the season, he would just think about one play or one call that he sent in that he wasn't happy with, and he'd wake up and not be able to get back to sleep. That's being maniacal. That's eating, breathing, and living football. And right now, especially when you're building this culture, and I love where we're at with that, that's what you need.
I
100%.
I think the thing that made me the happiest is in his exit kind of talk with the press, and someone's like, "How
Yep.
do you build off of
That
this
was
year?"
Brad Biggs, yeah.
And Ben says, "You don't. It's done. You
Yep.
start over." That's the right mentality.
100, yeah, it is.
Like, uh, I'll pick on them because, you hate them as much, but what did Philly do? Well, we won last year, so
Yep.
let's just build on that. Let's just go in place. What is part of the reason the 49ers have not been able to get over the hump is because they keep trying to they don't rethink.
Right.
They change some of the play calls, but it's the same thing. Next year, it's gonna be different. It's
Yep.
gonna be different from a talent perspective, it's gonna be different from an execution standpoint. Some of these guys will sit down and will take leaps, but now, you have a full off season with this as your team, with everything and a history of with this staff of
Right.
what's transpired. It
And
changes everything.
it does. And like I said, and I know we'll turn the page on this portion of it because it's been beat to death, especially with DJ. And was he hurt? Was he not hurt? The end of the day, no matter what, DJ is put on tape way too often. And we've showed it here at TTNL
It's
where he's
been
taking
consistent.
where he's taking plays off. And if you are essentially wanting the ball more and you're earning $28 million a year, $27 million a year, when you talk about not sustainable, that's not sustainable in the way that this roster is constructed moving forward. And I know you got some stuff on that if you want to get into
Yeah,
the
the last thing I'll say to
slides
that
there.
is
Yeah.
look at DJ Moore and look at DeAndre Swift.
Yep.
At the beginning of the season, we all said because of the way that DeAndre Swift is, he's not really so much of a fit in the Ben Johnson offense, but that DJ Moore was a good fit because of what he can do. And as we sit here at the end of this season, I would argue that the offense relied, and you know what? It's not even an argument. The offense relied so much more on DeAndre Swift, who
Yeah.
changed some of what he did. Is he perfect? Is he
Nope.
irreplaceable? No, but the man was basically given the same guidelines as DJ, and he stepped the fuck up.
He
And I
did.
think that's again that goes back to the coaching, but I think it's really fascinating.
Totally agree. So
So
let's dive into what you got.
So I think if everybody remembers the first Cars Keys of this season, and I know all of you remember it because I have a massive ego and I need to tell myself that, but we talked about how ESPN had released how the NFL executives had ranked the top 10 quarterbacks before this season. So I want to just refresh everybody's mind. And if you take a look at this, do you think Jaden Daniels going into this list is still going to be there? Do you think Justin Herbert, after that god awful performance, is going to be there? Or Jalen Hurts, and with how bad it's looking right now with that team and all the middle of the field stuff that's coming out, Baker Mayfield took a step back. So remember, when we get all upset and you look into this going into this season, Mahomes is there. I think Allen, I think you kind of have to have a little bit of a conversation about overrated to a degree.
Yeah, it's just where I'm going to give Josh Allen the pass is, I mean, name me his wideouts when
Oh,
you're
it's terrible, but the fumbles and some of the
Oh,
other like,
that 100%. It's
his
can't have it. Yep.
I told you and Ryan in the vaunted text chain, the inaccuracy of Josh Allen
Yep.
which showed he had a wide open. Was it Dawson Knox to score a game winning touchdown, or was it Kincaid? I can't remember which
I
one.
can't remember which one, but I know
Wide
it's
open
yeah.
to win that game. If you are the best quarterback, if I show you that list, do you think Mahomes is missing that?
Yeah.
I don't
Nope.
think Burrow's missing that. I don't think Lamar's missing that. Jaden, I don't think is honestly missing that. Stafford is not. If you're if you're that guy,
Yeah.
you're not missing that. So his inaccuracy is everything we hear about Caleb, but you're 100% right. But I just want to have that as a conversation because I think too often we hear the comp to Caleb is Allen. I think the comp to him is Stafford. A more mobile Stafford, but remember how Stafford started off?
Yeah.
He wasn't super accurate because he had that cannon of an arm. He had to learn how to layer throws. Almost as impressive as that touchdown was the one that he threw to the sideline to Devontae Adams.
Ooh.
If that's the comp that I want us looking forward to look at Caleb, and that's the one that I think that we should move forward. But let's start talking a little bit here about where the Bears are at. So when you look at the cap at the glance for next year, there are 38 players on the books. You can read everything that's on there. I do have some stuff that we'll talk about what we could potentially do with DJ, but it's not the way the cap situation is set up is not pretty. And Dio, I think, is next year is his last year, but absolutely he needs to be there. The one thing I do like to call out though, we only have 500K in dead cap. If you remember
Yep.
with what we inherited really quickly, it was like 50 plus and 60
Right.
plus million of dead cap. That is a massive savings. So we only have 3.7. But if you just a quick way to throw some cap out, if you release these 4 players, and I think none of this is going to give anybody any heartburn, you're up to 22 million in a snap. 22 million is
right.
enough to get you a pass rusher of some sort or some sort of player in free agency.
Yeah.
All these
and
guys are less than 1 million. Yep.
Right. And at this point, I mean, with everything that's going on, you heard Ryan Poles, and not, he didn't provide a detailed update on Ozzie Trapillo, but if you listen to his words, it was, deep into next season. So, I think that and I'm not saying that Karan is going to step up, but for the 1.1 million, I do you see him going in? I don't see him going anywhere.
I do.
Do you think they're going to cut him?
He isn't. What has he shown?
I know, just that he knows how to get injured.
Yeah, but that's why. Like, it was just like one of the guys on Twitter was like, "Well, with this, doesn't that mean you bring Braxton Jones back? Why?
No. Yeah,
you know what I mean? Why?
Right.
He never got his strength back. You know what he is, and it's not what he was. Like even his rookie year, he was better than last year or the year prior. So I think absolutely you make that go away because he athletically he doesn't fit the mold. Anger and competitive wise, he doesn't meet the mold. I don't think Rushar. He was getting more looks at guard than he was at tackle by the end. I think that's a massive miss.
Yeah,
So
it's going to be interesting, and it sucks because Ozzie started to step up, and be the guy that we, honestly, I didn't think that he could be at left tackle. And then
how big of an improvement was that to go from like what it looked like in preseason to that? Again, this staff, not enough credit.
Right. And you got to throw Tooney in there too. I think he's just gonna, I think that
there's your left tackle. You're saying? No, I'm just kidding.
No,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No,
kidding.
But people are out there saying it. No, let him be the all pro at left guard.
You'll have a off season to figure that out. So absolutely.
Yep.
So the other thing I want to talk is this is where it starts to get a little bit more interesting. You can extend and lower Montez's number. He's the 8th highest cap hit as an edge, but I think To me, he's a better, back in the day, remember when we signed Phil Daniels to be
Mhm.
this guy? He's a better Phil Daniels. He's never gonna be the best pass, like the most dominant pass rusher, I'd say, but he is oftentimes around the quarterback. He is forcing fumbles. He is doing those other things. So you can, let's just say, look at extending him. So if you do, just using an example, 2 years, 40 million with a $10 million bonus, you can drop his cap hit from this year from 25 million to around $8 million.
Yep.
And so, with that, with DJ, you can convert his salary to a minimum base and adding a void, just one void year. I'm not the biggest void year fan, but if you add one, it's a lot less punitive than anything else. But you can lower his cap hit from 28.5 to 10. So again, you're looking at another $18 million of cap saving in that move.
Yep.
And then with Cole Kmet, I think that's the other fun one, Shane. By the end of the season, we all should understand that Cole Kmet has a long-term place on this team.
100%. He's not going anywhere. And people need to accept that, and I know Phil hasn't been the biggest fan, but I also think Phil has come around to realizing that, the role that Komet was initially put in pre Ben Johnson, and even when Matt Nagy was here. Of course, when you draft a tight end in the second round, you don't want him to be a blocking type tight end that's gonna get you some catches here and there. Everybody in the moment wants him to be Travis Kelsey or Rob Gronkowski or guys like that, and that's just never who Cole Kmet has been. But when you put Cole Kmet in a combo with who Colston Loveland is,
It's
it's a match made in heaven, really. It
it's
is. And
beautiful thing.
right, and you're using so much 13 personnel now. I mean, you talk about Sean McVay, you talk about Ben Johnson, how they love it, and I said it's, you know, Durham Smythe kind of came out of
How about
yeah,
underrated
big time.
year
Yeah.
for that guy?
But no, I totally agree, and Bears fans need to understand Cole Kmet's not going anywhere.
No. And so if you can extend him, and again, I'm just using simplistic numbers, but I can give him 2 years for 20. I can give him a $10 million bonus, right? To be like, here's what you get right now just for coming back in. I think this year he's something around the 11th highest or 12th highest paid tight end in the NFL. If I had told you, Shane, that David Njoku is the highest paid tight end
Yeah,
this year at over $20 million,
crazy.
you'd be shocked.
Mhm.
But if I look at those, so if you add those in to the other moves, you're looking at $64 million in cap space.
Yep.
That's a bare minimum type of situation.
And you still have, I mean, you could probably still do something with it if needed. I'm saying you still have a guy like Joe Tooney,
Or Jonah Jackson.
Jonah Jackson, all of those guys. But like I said, and I know everybody is defaulting to Max Crosby right off from jump. And listen, if he is available, you have to be involved. But can I see Ryan Poles and Dennis Allen, who's already been connected to this guy, when he came into the league, in a Trey Hendrickson, even though he's a little bit older, where they're not giving up premium asset in the draft and just paying him and him being brought in. I can see that.
But we have to understand that for that move
Mm-hmm.
to happen, it's very similar to DJ, except
Right.
Crosby's dead cap number this year, I think, is 72 million.
Yeah.
Or no, it's actually, it's okay. It's actually at $35 million. It's this year that it was so high. You're not going to be able to get him with DJ Moore.
Right.
You're going to have to throw in other things. Cap wise, it doesn't fit. So you're going to have to make some other moves happen. So this idea, your most likely time to trade DJ Moore is going to be post June 1st when all of that falls back. And what that means though is the draft has already happened. You're not going to get something necessarily that immediately helps you this year.
Right.
So it's one of those things that maybe if you move the contract around and you renegotiate it, maybe then you could move him. Someone asked a question, and I did want to add this in to explain what a void year is. But what it does, a void years allows you to pay out like a bonus is over more years. It's adding 1, 2, or 3 dummy years at the end of a contract.
Yeah, the player's never going to play on it.
The player's never going to play on it, but it's let's use the Dodgers example. Sorry, but if they're paying Shohei Ohtani $1 million a year, but his salary is 60, and he's going to sign for 5 years, what they will do is that'll say like, okay, but after his contract ends, he's still going to carry a cap hit of $30 million a year for the next 5 years or 10 years to make up for the fact that you've just done an accounting trick. It's one of those things that the tax man always cometh.
Yeah, Ryan Pace was famous for the void years.
Oh, it's terrible. If I'm remembering correctly, Tom Brady's with the Tampa Bay Bucks, they had 2. This was his last year of being on the salary cap for the Tampa Bay Bucks was this year.
Yeah.
At $25 million a year.
Yeah, that's why we always laugh. Listen, if you're in contention and you're a player away, fuck a cap does exist. But beyond that, fuck a cap exists, but it literally fucks your team over.
You do it. The reason that New Orleans is in fucking hell is because Mickey Loomis put all those void years. Like, you want to laugh, they're still paying Taysom Hill 13 plus. He's getting paid more than Cole Kmet is right now as a tight end. You add void years in when you think that you have a real shot. And this is when Shane and I always talk about, like, this is why you need to be honest with yourself about where your team is at.
Yeah.
Because if you really have a shot, you do it. But we've seen the Cowboys, we've seen the Packers, we've seen the Saints. We've seen all of these teams that, like, we're there. You're not. Buffalo is in a bit of hell and was in hell this year because Bean did all those void years with, like, the Von Miller contract and all these ridiculous ones that he paid. You pay the piper at some point. So you better go win.
Yep.
Or else
100%. Yeah, and that's the thing. You hear them say, when you hear them say they're kicking the can down the road, that's you're kicking it down to these void years. You know what I mean? And it's so you can
this is the best way to explain it. It pushes guaranteed money into potential future years.
That the player, right.
And it's 1, 2, 3. I think it can be up to 4 years. I know it's up to 3. I can't remember if it's 4 as well.
Yeah, it's lowering the value of the contract in present day, but pushing,
and the player's still getting paid that amount for that year.
Yeah, correct. But it's lowering the impact of the cap on your current year, this year or next year. But there's definitely lots of games that you can play, and you got to realize the Bears, and probably at some point, it doesn't make any sense to do it now because he's not even extension eligible yet. But with Caleb Cars, you're smart enough to realize this is Ryan Poles is already everything that he's been structuring for the most part has been with a Caleb extension in mind.
Oh, void years exist because of the escalating salaries of quarterbacks that are taking larger and larger percentages of the salary cap, which makes it, I mean, if you went out and paid some of these guys actual market value, you would not be able to field a winning team. And you saw that happen this year in Kansas City, right? Where it caught up. And I think one of my favorite kind of statistics of all time was that every year that the Patriots won a Super Bowl, Tom Brady was not one of the top 10 highest paid players in the NFL. So when you think about what that means, void years are a way of basically doing that. And I've been a big proponent of saying, I am very certain in the next CBA that what will be part of a negotiation will be that only a percentage of a quarterback's salary over a certain dollar amount will apply to the cap. Let's just say, you know, a quarterback, anything over $50 million, let's just use that as a round
Yep.
number. Anything over that, 75% will count against the cap, or 50% of that will count against the cap. Meaning, like, if you have a $100 million quarterback, it's 50%. Only 75 million of that will count against it.
You want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
So, in terms of void years, the Philadelphia Eagles have by far the most void years in the NFL, utilizing this strategy to manage the salary cap and maintain a competitive roster. As of early 2025, the Eagles have over $390 million in deferred salary cap hits via void years, which is more than the combined total of the bottom 18 teams in the entire NFL.
Oh, I mean, they right now, if I can remember the big three, it's Philly, New Orleans, and Cleveland. And Cleveland is, for the most part, because of that god awful Deshaun Watson contract.
San Francisco ranks second with 204 million. Cleveland
man.
is third with 187.5.
Forgot about
But I can literally, give me 2 seconds here. I can add this. I just pulled the file, and it's just, I mean, it's
yeah, I mean that.
look who's down there at the bottom.
And so you, again, when you look at this list, one, I don't want to hear anybody give any sympathy to Myles Garrett for that contract and how bad that team is, because you did it to yourself.
Yeah.
But what the hell are the Jets, the Saints, the Jaguars all doing that level, that way high?
Right. Well,
It's
I mean,
just-
just go down a little bit more. The Dolphins are even up there. It's yikes.
And you remember they ran into this with the Rams, right? Like,
Yeah.
for a little bit. And that's why it's taken the Rams such a period to come back to where they are now. Like, at some point you pay the piper. It hurts.
Yeah, for all of Pohl's, short givings, you gotta. He has done. Listen, he's got some doozy contracts that you'd love to get away from, mainly Dio and the Grady one. Grady's not going anywhere this year either. But it is what it is. But everything that he's done, even in free agency, is with Caleb's contract in mind.
It has to be. Because,
Yep.
again, like, if I use the 49ers as an example, right? The Javon Hargrave deal, that guy is $16 million against the cap next
Yeah.
year and hasn't played with them for 2 years now, is it?
Yeah, crazy.
Like, so it's one of those things where you need a level of cap responsibility. As much as I want to complain about the Dio deal, and you absolutely
Yep.
should. I'm not going to take away from it ever. It's a 3-year deal. That's
Yeah.
you're out after 2. It's one of those things where you have to be forward. And I think, Shane, what we've seen so far is Matt Nagy has a control over the players added, and Dennis Allen has. Ryan Poles is more of a tell me what you want and I'll go get
Yep.
it, not a Howie Roseman, I'll go get it and you have to make it work
Right. Yeah.
type.
In Howie's world, he's Howie thinks of himself as a rock star, and
He thinks himself as the conductor, and the coaches are
Yeah.
part of the symphony that he's conducting.
Yep.
The last thing I just wanted to show, because I think it's important, is we have to consider that in 2028,
Mhm.
these, I'm showing you this because 4/5 of your offensive line are off the books at that point. So you know that Darnell Wright will be there, and there you'll see an extension. And I think we're comfortable in knowing that probably Luke Newman is going to take over for one of these spots. But you need to have your eye in the future that we've got 3 more years, to rebuild some of these spots. So completely understood, that pass rush is a primary responsibility and a
Right.
primary need, but we cannot, and that's even before factoring in the Ozzy stuff. But you 100% are going to see like this is going to be a very trench heavy draft for the Bears just overall.
Right. And that's the thing. And you talk about the offensive line and where you get yourself in trouble when you're constructing a team is all right. Yeah, we understand that you have Jonah Jackson and you have Joe Tooney. Totally understand it. But if you get to draft day and there's an offensive guard that you have graded in the top 15 players and you're at your second round pick and you have a pass rusher that's higher on your board, but you have him graded as a second round pick and as maybe like the whatever 68th player overall, but you have an offensive guard that's a 15th overall player, you take the fucking offensive lineman. You have to. You just have to. And like I said, that nobody loves Joe Tooney more than I do, but injuries happen, people, whatever. Jonah Jackson to this point, listen, he started off slow in Chicago, but he's had some inconsistencies in his career. So you obviously want to stay away from that in 2026, but you can't be scared to pull the trigger on an offensive lineman, and they're going to have to with the thing that's going on with Ozzy.
Oh, absolutely. And I wanna sit I said this. The Bears, it is not considered a lateral move, OC to OC,
Right.
because Declan Doyle does not call plays. And there are provisions in this that sit down and say you have it, like, to go from offensive coordinator and role only to offensive coordinator where you call plays is a promotion. So those
Right.
sorts of things cannot be blocked. So 100% Declan Doyle could go get that job.
I would be surprised myself, but we'll
It
see where it goes.
We'll see. Yeah.
They wanted Mike McDaniel and he turned them down, which quite
And
honestly,
Dable is either gonna coach the Bills or he's going to the Titans.
Yeah.
That's one of the more fascinating stories to look at right now. Is, again, with Philly, with how bad that year went, with how bad that locker room went, with how
Yeah.
th
They might
they
have to settle for Matt Nagy.
the whole egging of Patullo's house
Yeah.
is really, if you were a wife right now, do you want your kids there?
Yeah.
It's
But
it's a bad luck. But so that's what I want you all to think about when you go into this off season, is understanding there's not a ton. Um, I'll answer this one, and I'm pretty sure you steal the answer. No, we're not just that away. That significantly helps, but
right.
we need help. Like, we need
Well, when you're talking about dead cap, what I can't even imagine what Miles Garrett's would be.
you can't. It's
Yeah.
it's like 200, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's let me look it up real quick. His dead cap is 124 this past season. It's 102 next season.
Yeah. And that would be a record by what? 50 million?
Yes, but yeah.
Crazy.
Oh, yeah. So no, we aren't. I think the NFC is relatively weak, but there are enough holes on this team right now that you can't say that definitively. A better pass rush does fix a lot of it. But if I use the example, I don't know how you feel about this, Shane, but like, Green Bay was not a Micah Parsons away from a Super Bowl. It sounds really great, and he definitely made the team better, but when Micah went out with an injury, what did you see what happened?
Right. Yeah.
Everybody else got exposed. And so it's one of those things where, like, just knowing the NFL, um, you don't like first off, Max Crosby, much like Myles Garrett, never should have signed that extension. I
Right.
don't know what he was thinking. I get the idea of loyalty. It never should have happened, but there's a very good chance he's gonna have to play there next year, or they're gonna cut him, or they're gonna take pennies on the dollar, and he's gonna go to another not really good football team.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see the way that it plays out, but listen, this is going to be a massive off season for Ben Johnson, for Ryan Poles, for the Chicago Bears, for Roma Dunze, the guy, guys like that we were just talking about, and they have to sort out what's going on in this defense, because I mean, and we're going to have more shows. We're going to break this down in more detail, but Cars brought up the Tremaine Edmonds, but on top of that, Jackson is a free agent. To me, I agree with Phil. I think he's a must
Oh,
resign. Yeah.
DeMarco has to be here.
Yep. And it's going to be either way you look at it, that's not going to be a restrictive contract at all. But I mean, Cars, and I know we're not huge PFF fans, but the number 2 coverage linebacker graded out in the entire NFL, DeMarco Jackson, with players with at least 350 snaps.
He wasn't guessing
Yeah.
in the run game. Sometimes, you know, Zach Thomas was not of size, speed, anything to really be as good and as impactful of a player as he
Yep.
was. But why was he? Because he knew his assignment. He was where he was supposed to be. Luke Kuechly will be one of the best linebackers I have
Oh yeah.
ever watched, because he could read and diagnose and knew what was happening, but knew his role and was where he was supposed to be. My biggest issue with Roquan was always the same. He was guessing, looking for the highlight tackle, making these moves. Sometimes just being steady and being exactly where you need to be gets you
Yep.
paid. Look at Zach Bond in
In
Philly.
Philly. Yeah.
It's exactly what he did. So, yeah, I think he's one of those guys that, like, I think he personified a lot of that defense where it was like, no name. I'm
Yeah.
gonna, much like, I think Nashawn Wright is most likely gone this year.
Yep.
But
I
it's one of
agree.
those guys, like, you don't know my name. I haven't done anything, but I'm gonna take this opportunity and I'm gonna make the most of it, and I'm gonna be where I need to be. You take those players all day, every day.
And as crazy as it sounds, when we're talking about Ryan Poles, DB is the one position that he's kind of excelled at. And I'm not even talking about, in the second round of the draft. I'm talking, later in the draft, UDFAs, all of
Terrell
that.
Smith would have had an incredible year this year.
Yeah.
That's why I also don't think, and I did not put this on there, and I'm pretty sure you feel the same. There's no guarantee that Jalen is back.
Oh, no, Cars. Like I said, Phil and I have taken a ton of bullets for it. And I understand when Jalen is healthy, he's a good cornerback. But all of these Bears fans that are saying that he's a lockdown corner and
There's no
top
such
3
thing.
or top 5 or he's not. He's not. He's just not. And now, I mean, the core injury, and he's going to want to be paid on top of it. No, you gotta listen.
Do you know what you know who the best example for this is? And I'm sorry to have cut you off there, but it's Sauce.
Yeah.
Sauce was locked down for a year.
Yeah.
Has he been the same player ever
Nope.
since? No. Trayvon Diggs, one snap Diggs, 1 year.
Yeah.
Has he been the same?
Nope.
No. There are no more Darrell Revises in this league. There are no Jalen Ramsey at his peak was, but there is no corner in my belief. Well, I take it back. Surtain is probably one
Yeah,
of
he'd be
one.
as close to it. And the kid in Philly's off to a tremendous start.
Oh, Quinyon Mitchell. Yeah.
Yeah, yep.
But you're talking about two. Shutdown corner to me is being used much like franchise quarterback. You're
Yeah.
applying it to Daniel Jones's, Kyler Murray's, and these type of guys
Yep.
that are good, but you're paying them to be great, and they're not great.
Right.
Like I like Stingley Jr. I like Witherspoon. These guys aren't out there enough. They've been too injury prone.
Yep.
They aren't there consistently. It's
But
there's no such thing.
that's the thing too, and this is the problem with banning a certain way. It's like, if is it really disrespectful if you say that Jalen Johnson's not a top 10 corner or a top 8 corner? Is it really that disrespectful? It's
It's kinda like Shane, to me, it's like there are usually in most years, there are top 5 quarterbacks, and then there is a massive gap between 5 and 6, and that's
Yeah.
usually the way that goes. I don't think it's unfair to say, like, there is Surtain and potentially Mitchell. There's a gap, then you've probably got your, like, a sizable one to get to, like, your Witherspoons and your Stingleys, and then there's a massive gap to get to
Right.
that next tier of people.
And that's why there's power in numbers, especially at DV. That's why they say you can never have enough. It's almost better to be deep with good. You know what I mean? That's kind of what the
Philly
Bears
did that when they won, was
Yeah.
deep with good.
You are on board with bringing CJ Gardner-Johnson back I think you can get him for a 1-year deal.
I think he's that type of player you only give 1-year deals
Yeah.
to, and I
Yep.
think he's accepted that at this moment.
Yep, me too.
But, yeah, I mean, if you wanna who would you rather have, CJ or Brisker?
No doubt about it. I'm signing CJ Gardner-Johnson and I'm putting him at safety all fucking day long over Jaquan Brisker.
And I think and don't you get excited about the idea of CJ paired with
Yeah.
because we saw in that
Yeah.
game, and it's not something that we talked probably enough about, but both he and Kyler on the ground, on the field at the same point in time, great. And I
Yeah.
wanna say so this one. Gonzalez has done it sort of for a year, but his rookie year was not that.
Yeah, another guy that's got a injury history for sure.
And it's one of those things where it's like, great dude, lot of talent, but that's what you see the most out of these corners. Kyler Gordon, to me, is just as good as Gonzalez. Just as good. What do they share in common? Can't stay healthy.
Yeah, and that you saw glimpses of the old Kyler at moments
Yes.
against the Rams, which was good to see. And Jaquan just happened to play what I think is his best overall game as a Bear.
But has admitted that the scheme does not fit him.
Oh, all day. And like I said, my son's always been a Jaquan Brisker fan. When we met him, we got to meet him in Buffalo and chat with him for a few minutes. He was great with my son, stuff like that. And that's what kids are gonna, fall head
Oh.
over heels for shit like that. But listen, it's just one of those things, and he's not a an old player by any means, but honestly, Cars, where I wouldn't be shocked to see him end up, and it's the team that I talk about a lot. I wouldn't be shocked to see Brisker end up in Philly.
No.
But
because he's
I
got to
don't-
find a scheme that wants
Yep.
to downhill in the box safety. Like that's what he's really good at. He had one interception this year, I feel
no,
like.
it was in Washington.
I don't think he had any other no forced fumbles, no recoveries. He had one interception.
Was his last interception before the one in Washington? Was it the one-hander in New England?
So he's had basically one interception a year. His last one, let me see if I can find this real quick. It's a very good question. 2024.
Well, it would have been 23 in New England because
No, he
Justin
had
was his
he had
quarterback.
one in 2024 against the
Yep.
Rams,
Oh, okay.
which was his other best game because he had an interception, a sack, a couple tackles for loss as well.
Yeah, I bring back Byard, and I think when the GM comes out and specifically names you, I think you kind of see where that's going. And listen, you can't break the bank for Byard simply based on his age, but I think he's a key component within the locker room.
And I think it's the same with Grady Jarrett.
Yep.
The pay doesn't match the performance, but like you still hear these guys talk about him and the importance that he is in that locker room. And so you always need that, and you need those guys until someone else is ready to take the mantle. Yeah, I think the one concern I have moving forward is we need to find guys to take that mantle,
Yeah.
especially on the defensive side of the ball. Sweat is not vocal. Grady's older, Byard's older. We had to kind of inherit or inject some of that leadership in
Yep.
there. You've got to draft and find someone here at some point to do that.
I did see this, and that's concerning with Tyreek.
I think Tyreek is done.
Yeah, I did see that. And I mean, for him of all people to get caught up in that absolute nonsense and in a fucking playoff game is embarrassing. And Tyreek is a guy, started out at Georgia and then transferred to the U and has always been a bit of a hothead, uber talented, uber physical. But Tyreek is going to be the person that brings down Tyreek, sadly. And I love watching him play when he's not doing stupid shit like
When
that.
he's
But
focused, he's phenomenal.
yep,
But how often do we see that?
no, you don't. Not
How
enough.
often did we call his name this year?
Bears
Remember his rookie year he was all over the place.
Bears traded up in the draft in the second round for him, by the way.
Bears could save roughly 3.7 million from moving on from Tyreek because it's the last year of his rookie deal.
Yep. That wouldn't be. I could see somebody like that being a throw-in
in a trade.
On a trade that would have upside for a team. And I listen, if you're I don't want to extend the show too much here, but the Raiders, and I have my thoughts on, quarterback and all of that for them, but let's just say that the Bears and Raiders are talking, trade in the offseason. If you're the Raiders, how are you not demanding Tyson Bagent back in the deal?
I don't know how you draft Fernando Mendoza 1 overall.
Have fun.
Nothing against the dude. He's a fantastic competitor, I will say. That touchdown run against Miami is a big time play. But like, what trait do you say? He's been a one read guy. He's been in a run heavy scheme. He's been a one read guy. He's made some big throws. I don't want to take it away, but to me, he's the type, Shane, that will be like a Sam Darnold like career, meaning that it's going to be the second or third team where he's finally going to take off because he's going to finally go somewhere where they've got more. It'll be like Daniel Jones in Indy, right?
Or Sam Bradford.
Yes. Or, like you go to a team that has more parts, but you can't, under no way, shape, or form can you feel good about your team drafting Fernando Mendoza 1 overall. You just can't.
I'm glad we're not in the quarterback game, but I mean,
Oh.
but to my point, if you're the Raiders, aren't you adamant that Tyson is part of the
Do that and
return?
draft the tackle from Miami and call it a day? Absolutely.
Right, but I mean, even if they're dead set on getting a quarterback and it's just not at 1, or if they move down or whatever, but just to buy yourself time, I go back to all these drafts and the quarterbacks, and it just makes you realize how absolutely lucky that we are the way that it fell. And I'm talking about even away from just the 2024 draft class was the one that we were going to be involved in, because 2023 with Bryce, and then 2025, and now 2026. Yikes.
Do you remember, by the way, how we were destroyed for not drafting, that we wouldn't have drafted CJ Stroud?
Yeah.
Where are all those? And again, that list that I showed you
Yeah.
of in 2024, he was one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the leagues by executives in 2024. That guy might have played himself out of the massive extension.
Right. All day. Yeah. I mean, do you want to get into into a Deshaun Watson type, deal? If you're Houston, it's terrible.
I threw interceptions because I'm not used to having a good defense. What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
It's crazy, but so we're a little over an hour, but we're gonna get out of here. Cars and I'll, get together and figure out when we're gonna be back. We'll officially turn the page on, season 4 of Cars Keys, but we're gonna be moving forward. We got a big off season coming up. We'll get into some free agent talk and maybe some targets and contracts on that too. And as we do, we're gonna, be hot and heavy on the NFL draft and all of that moving forward. And I'm really looking forward to it, but I'm also looking forward to a little bit of a break and only having to be on Wednesday nights for a couple of weeks, because After Dark is going away for a little bit, and take a little bit of time off and get some of my nights back and catch up on some family time and
It's
moving and all of that stuff. So
it's kind of important. Yeah. Absolutely.
it's kind of important. So yeah, what 5'6" white guy is Phil going to want to draft? Well, there will be one. You can bet on that.
Oh, I'm sure he's going to demand that we sign Wan'Dale Robinson from the Giants as well, right?
Exactly.
I love balls.
Well, keep it to yourself, buddy. All right, we love you guys. We will see you when we see you. It won't be too long. We promise. We'll be back. 2026 off season is upon us. Should be a fun one.
We'll be doing 1,000 mock drafts on Twitter any day, just so I can say I'm first in every pick.
That's the way that it works. See you guys soon. Bear down.
Later.